Hi, everyone. Good evening. I am Jenny, Community Building Officer for Uplifters. I am with Camille, Head of Programs for Uplifters.
Hi everyone.
Hi, Camille.
Hi Janelle. Hi everyone. I'm Camille. I work at Uplifters for a few months now as a head of programs, and I'm very happy to be joining you for my first ever Facebook Live with you.
Yes, I'm so happy that you're here with us tonight, Camille.
Sorry,
Thank you for joining us.
You're very welcome.
I'm happy that you're joining us tonight. And this is our first ever broadcast with you. So Uplifters is a nonprofit organization dedicated to empowering underprivileged communities with online education and peer support. We offer a free online money management course for domestic workers. You just need to click send message on our Facebook page to enroll. And this is the sixth episode of our antivirus series, and we are very happy to be here with you tonight. These are challenging times for all of us, and especially for our community. Our objective with this antivirus video live is to reply to your questions, if we can, or collect them and consult with professionals afterwards so we can answer them later. We are happy to come together as a community and provide comfort to each other in these difficult situations. We will go through it together. Uplifters is first and foremost a community, and we will go through these difficult times with you. We are very happy to have Mr. Danilo Reyes from Help for Domestic Workers as our guest tonight. The mission of Help for Domestic Workers is to aid and support domestic workers and help them gain access to justice and receive fair and equal treatment. In 2019, they celebrated their 30th year of providing advice, assistance, and education to over 100,000 workers. Danilo completed his Master of Laws in Human Rights at the University of Hong Kong. He is a former Deputy Director of the Asian Human Rights Commission, a Hong Kong-based human rights NGO. Before coming to Hong Kong in 2005, he was a journalist for various newspapers in Mindanao, in the Philippines. He is finishing his PhD on Asian and International Studies at the City University of Hong Kong. He is a recipient of research fellowships, academic and community service awards in Canada, South Korea, Singapore, and Hong Kong. Hi, Danilo.
Hi, Danilo.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Camille. Thank you for that very kind introduction.
We appreciate your.
We already have some members of our community joining and saying hello. Hello, Sal Sabonarek. Hi, Odi. I'm very nice meeting you as well. I have heard a lot about you, so it's good to have you here.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks a lot for having us as well. Help.
Yeah, thank you to our viewers. Please don't forget to send your questions to us, and please feel free to send them in the comments. And so how are you today, Danilo?
Well, I'm good.
How was your day?
I usually end my day dealing with my clients, so that's the usual day.
Must have a very hectic day today at Help. So thank you again for joining us, and your advice and guidance is very important to us. So how about we start with our first question? Well, as we all know, COVID-19 has greatly impacted domestic workers. And what are the specific challenges that faced by migrant domestic workers as a result of the pandemic?
Yeah, I think this special episode is very timely, and we can also respond to urgent needs and the current challenges the foreign domestic workers in Hong Kong, in Singapore are facing. So before I proceed with the question, I'd like to orient all the workers who are listening and watching right now as to the background before we have gone to coronavirus. So we had 6-7 months of protest, which also had impact on workers. uh, from June to December 2019, and we learned about the coronavirus early in January. So many of the workers were caught flat-footed, like unaware on what to do. Not only them, but also the government, including the policies that had been existing. So the coronavirus, which began to emerge in January, really exposed foreign domestic workers to more abuse and vulnerability, and the existing policies and protections that we know, it has suffered shock. It did not really respond to the need that workers have at the moment. So I will discuss that in detail later. So what are the challenges? So some of the challenges that we have identified obviously is the uh, job insecurity. Many of the workers suffers loss of employment as a result, uh, loss of income, and uncertainty also in the labor market, especially in Hong Kong, because there have been protests and social unrest before that, and now the coronavirus. So we have from early January, we already observed the emerging trend in which domestic workers had been terminated by their employers because their employers also lost their job. So those are the challenges, and only when it comes to termination of workers, the challenges uh, uh, comes to four or three folds. Like it complicates. So in old days, if you are terminated, you can easily go to the labor department, file your claim, and proceed with a hearing and a trial, and you can easily access the shelter. Uh, but when the coronavirus emerged, those things are very difficult to access. First, you can't file claim because the labor relations division is closed, or the labor tribunal hearings are suspended, and the shelter from the early stage that they had limited space until such time that their capacity had been exhausted. They are full, and also there are also concerns of outbreaks in clusters inside heavily congested areas, right? So those are the indirect effect from losing your job, inability to file complaint, and then you also can't access these support services that should have been working before the coronavirus, right? And so those are in Hong Kong, issues in Hong Kong. Now, because the virus emerged as a later pandemic, then we also experiences cross-border issues, right? So in mid February or early February, we have heard about workers who are unable to return to Hong Kong from Philippines because of this travel ban by the Philippine government. And many of those workers had also been terminated because they failed to come on time on their expected arrival in Hong Kong from their holiday. So those are the initial cases termination, which involves cross country cross border problems, right? And in Hong Kong, if you are outside Hong Kong, you can't file a claim at the labor tribunal. So we had to deal with cases of workers who are in Philippines. So we try to assist them by should they come back to Hong Kong, then when they decide to claim, then they can do that. So and then uh, as the coronavirus becomes a pandemic, then now we encounter workers who had been terminated because their employers had gone to other countries because they relocated, and some of the employers who were on holiday during Chinese New Year couldn't come back to Hong Kong, so they're stuck because of these travel restrictions from different countries. Then many of the issues had also emerged, like whether or not they will be paid while their employers are away. How could they terminate their contract while their employers are stuck in other countries, and when their employers come back, so whether they're also included in the quarantine because the employers might also, infect their workers, right? So as the
Mhm.
conditions deteriorates, as we all know, the spread of the coronavirus, the intensity of it, escalating, then the third problem now is when the host country in Hong Kong and the country where these workers come from, like in Philippines and Indonesia, they also impose their own lockdown. So many of the workers, even if they
Mhm.
want to go back to their countries in Philippines or
Mhm.
Indonesia, they could not because domestic flights are suspended until May 15, 16 in Philippines. So even if they want to go back to Philippines, they get stuck in Manila with no money. And so those are the challenges. Even in Indonesia and also in Sri Lanka, the flights are suspended. No inbound or outbound flights, right? So
Mhm.
so and the latest, I guess, latest challenges is this, as I mentioned earlier, the structural shock in Hong Kong, like issues emerging, whether or not workers should be allowed to go out on rest day because of fear of contracting coronavirus when they come back into the employer's house, and whether or not the employers also can do that, right? So those are issues which has not been previously discussed in detail. So there's a lot of gray areas emerging, especially the quarantine rules. So who will pay for the costs, and whether when the employer coming from abroad, whether their workers will be included in quarantine or not, and most especially this existing live-in rules. So we all know that domestic workers are not allowed to live outside their employer's house, but with this coronavirus, it really exposes the vulnerability of workers. At the same time, the policy that exists that may not be suitable at the moment. So those are the immediate challenges that the workers are facing today.
Mhm. So, yeah, there are so many challenges indeed. So, what has your organization been doing to help them in relation to these specific challenges?
And maybe Danilo, as you go, if our members want to share, if you have been facing yourself some of the challenges that Danilo just mentioned, then feel free to just share your experience
Yeah.
if you'd like in the
Yeah.
comment box, so we can see. I see that some are coming now,
Yeah,
so we can
that's
see
good.
how you can relate to what Danilo just shared.
Yeah, that's very good. So we welcome comments and sharing. So what I have mentioned might be just a tip of the iceberg, so because we can't
Yeah, I
really.
can. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm sure. Like what I understood is that there are challenges that they were already facing before, but that are
Mm,
getting even more difficult to overcome because of the situation. But there are also new challenges that are very specific to the current situation, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Mhm.
so with Jenny's question on what do we do with these challenges, so our organization, we also had to adapt. So in our office, we have 4 full-time staff who are involved in case management and casework. So in the past, we also had to, in the past, we used uh, face-to-face interviews with clients, but we had to adapt also with the
Mhm.
changes. So we shift to flexible work arrangement. We do remote work, and we shift to communication through WhatsApp and telephone. And although we limit our engagement by face-to-face interviews. Our Sunday clinic are still open, and our Sunday clinic is supported by qualified volunteer lawyers from law firms in Hong Kong, especially the Asian Bar Review. So we have that. So the idea is to make sure that even though we might not be able to provide in-person service, the workers in need of assistance can still communicate to us. So we make that access to us available, and we have an online database. So those are online database with client records in which we can identify tailored intervention for each cases. So we keep that online and regular, and we still continue our service on even though we are not physically in the office. And we also, the moment we see this phenomenon emerging in early January, we develop a quick monitoring data in which we identify the patterns. So each client has their own issues. Each client has their own different concern. So we develop a monitoring system in which we identify the issues concerned for each client, like terminated client, client in need of shelter, client who's stuck in Hong Kong, client who might need visa extension. So we have that in our office. So we have that since January, February up to the present. So we do that in response to these new challenges. So that would enable us also to develop a tailored intervention for our.
And Danilo, may I ask you something? So this database that you're feeding while you're dealing with new cases, does it help you to identify trends? And identifying trends, does that help you in return to better respond to each specific situations? How does it work?
Yes, absolutely. It does help. Okay. So it tells us the trend of clients that we serve, the frequency. For instance, we can identify quickly how many of these clients had been terminated arising from this coronavirus. How many of them are still in Hong Kong, stuck and needing visa? So we have that in our system. So the idea is to have that system to be able to respond quickly and develop a plan for each of the clients as we go along. And
maybe before you move on, we have a question from Odi, who is part of a support group, and she's asking if you know how long does it take, how long does the process take when there are trials with the Chinese Labor Tribunal. She's asking because she feels that one of the reasons why some domestic workers are not filing complaints would be because they are not sure of how long it would take. If I can screen the question very quickly.
Yeah, I understand.
You have it, yeah.
That's a very common question, Camille, among clients.
Okay.
Because they need to know how long will it take and whether they could stand on a long haul, right? So
yes, exactly. I guess this is the reason why she asks, indeed.
Yeah. Before the coronavirus outbreak and the protest in Hong Kong, we can predict like 2-3 months that should have been settled. Yeah. But because of this closure by the Labor Relations Division and the suspension of trial, we cannot say it would be like that anymore. So, for instance, I have a case. She was terminated early in February, and the hearing for her trial at the Labor Tribunal has not even commenced yet. So February, March, April. Yeah. So this is what I said. A different situation, different condition. Some of the expectations before has already changed a lot. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So in addition to that, we also have to keep a tab on our outstanding cases and ongoing cases, which may not be directly related to coronavirus. Like we have uh, emerging trend in which clients are accused falsely of theft. So we suspect that the employers might just not want to pay severance payment or long service
Mm.
pay. So we are seeing that coming. So we had to deal also with this type of emerging clients and outstanding clients that we have. Those clients we have who has a pending case in labor tribunal that had been suspended, and pending case at the criminal at the magistrate court that had been suspended. So even for us also, it's more challenging. We had to deal
Mhm.
with the we had to innovate also our casework and case management, from protests to coronavirus
Yeah,
to
I can imagine.
yeah to
Mhm.
You have to adapt yourself, right?
yeah, exactly. We have to be very innovative also in explaining to our clients
Mm.
uh, what policies may or may not work, and we also try to experiment just to give our clients some sense of hope. Like even though things are very uncertain, we can actually still get a sense of what might happen. So that's what we try to tell them and help them in having an informed decision to do those things. Yeah. So, and lastly, what are the practical interventions that we have so far with our clients, like to rise above all these challenges? So, after the lockdown in the Philippines and also this lockdown in Indonesia, we had been assisting our clients to uh, apply extension for visa, like for a month. So it's also good that the immigration department and the labor department had this flexible rules when it comes to extension of stay. You can't do that in the past. In the past you can only stay 14 days, but since they had also acknowledged the urgency of this, so they had to adjust. So we had been assisting our clients apply for extension, and
Mhm.
we also facilitate in explaining to them the financial subsidies. For instance, this uh,
Mhm.
dole akap, but unfortunately, the Philippine Labor Office has suspended at the moment the subsidy because they said they they had reached the quota. So it means they
Oh.
never thought also that the number of affected workers might be more than what they have allotted a budget on,
Mhm.
right? So
Mhm.
we do that, and we also provide services to clients who had already been in Philippines to try to also access and explain to them how to access this social amelioration program by the Philippine government, like from 100 to 150 US dollars amount, depending on where they live. So those are type of services. So we expanded also our services from legal assistance
Mhm.
to accessing financial subsidies and improving and explaining to them how to access these subsidies uh, and that. Yeah. And we also encourage
Mhm.
our clients to speak on their own issues. Like it shouldn't be only us, but also for the clients to really articulate the issues that they currently face. So among them is to give them opportunity to speak to local journalists, to and newspapers, Chinese audience, to to also help the public understand the
Mm.
predicament, difficulty also that these workers are facing.
Mm.
It shouldn't
Mhm.
mean that because of the coronavirus they would be easily disposed of because they fear that they could infect their employers or they could contract virus. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
discrimination over happening. So we also let the workers
Mhm.
to for themselves by coming out in public to create their own space of explaining to them and make their own self heard. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. That's very important, right? so the public should also be aware of what's happening to the plight of the domestic workers.
Yeah.
And it's great that you're doing this communication um, programs, if you could call it that. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
We have colleagues
This,
or charge in our office involved in communication. Yeah, we have colleagues.
so when you say that you encourage them to speak out and to speak for themselves and make sure that the situation is known, like, is it, do you feel that some will be more will feel more empowered to do so, like, or have you seen some moving from seeking assistance on that specific topic to going to the media by herself, for instance, or trying to have the public better understand what the situation is? Have you witnessed that?
Yeah, of course, there are clients who are very confident to do that. You know, even though the relationship between the domestic worker and the employer may not be equal, but many of them, when they feel strongly abused or they feel injustice, you don't need to tell them to do it. They will do it themselves. So
Yeah.
because they feel it, right? So our role is only to facilitate. To if they want to speak for themselves, we try to provide them platform to be able to do that. We don't tell them what to say because they know exactly what they want to say and they can express in a profound way how they feel and how and what things should change for themselves, you know. So yeah.
Yes, on our side, we're trying also to do exactly the same, like just encourage them to have, healthy communication with their employers and trying to navigate the change that they are facing in their daily working life. Also using, effective communication. So I will just put in the comment box one article that we posted online recently regarding how you can feel more confident using a specific communication technique when you want to address the specific issues
Yeah,
with your employers.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, thanks for that, Camille.
Welcome.
So up to you, Jenny. Your turn.
Yes. Yeah. You mentioned that the challenges, and uh, I'm sure that up to now, even though uh, the situation here in Hong Kong has quite improved, I'm sure that there are still so many challenges that are being faced by migrant domestic workers. So yeah, we'd like to know what can you tell me some cases that help has dealt with successfully?
Yeah, so I have I can say some of the pattern. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
very challenging to define what is successful at the moment, right? Because we are not there yet. So, but one thing I could say is, you know, we have what we do when we help our clients. We, for instance, we have a client who had been terminated in February, so she couldn't file a claim at the labor tribunal because it's closed, and she couldn't. She couldn't also go back to Philippines because the flights are suspended, domestic flights. So what we try to do is, I won't disclose all the details, right? So, and who these
Yeah.
clients and how we did it.
Mm-hmm.
What we try to do is we develop some programs in which that would enable her to pursue her claim at the labor tribunal at the long haul, like even while she's terminated and while processing new contract, we help guide her on that and explain to her what could be the possible options. And I'm happy to say that she has been offered a new employment contract, and she now has a new employer. So she might go back to Philippines soon, and when she comes back, then that would enable her to really pursue her claim, right? So that's helping clients get themselves ready for the long haul. That is very important. You have to worry about the accommodation, you have to worry about providing food, paying for the visa extension, because those are realities. Many NGOs have been advocating, for instance, waiver for visa fee for those who are facing cases. They haven't done that yet. So you have to pay 230 just to extend your visa. And you have to pay boarding house, you have to pay
It's a lot.
food. And in many occasions, the amount that you're claiming, if you compare that to the cost that you have already spent, it's already beyond. But it's no longer just the claim. It's about the injustice that they suffer. They want to be affirmed, that the rights have been violated. So those are the approach that we try to do. Like we try to help our clients get themselves ready for the long haul, not only financially, not only a support system, but also emotionally and psychologically. We talk to them regularly, like explain to them what might be what could be the options if they stay or they decide to go back. So those are if you can call it success, then that could be. So and also for workers who had been terminated, also like employers refusing to pay severance payment or LSP, we try to make sure that even though we are not in the office, we can serve our clients, like speak to them directly and speak to and orient them on how to talk to the employers and really assert their rights. So on many occasions we have been able to help clients to claim their entitlements, like ranging from 5,000 to 29,000 Hong Kong dollars claim. So they're able to get them. So and that's good for them because they are entitled to do that. So we only give them tools and arguments on how they should tell their employers that they are entitled to that, and some sort of a threat that if they don't, then they could be held legally liable, and we will support our clients if they want. So and they've been able to get their entitlements, and we continue to do that as well. And despite the closure also of the labor relations division and the labor tribunal, so we also try to find ways to help them if they want to conduct out of court settlement with their employers, facilitate that one in employment agencies. So if both parties agrees and it can be settled, then that's good, and they have been able to get those entitlements as well. Like we also have to tell them like what should be for you and what are the obligations of the employers. We won't allow our clients to accept lower than what it should be, right? But if they want to, then that's their decision, but we try to talk to them. So these are ongoing interventions that we have for our clients, and also we are happy to share that some of the organizations and individuals had been donating hand sanitizers, face masks. So every time our clients come, we distribute them as much as we can. So every client we serve, we provide them hand sanitizers and face masks. So in fact, we run out of stock. So if there are donors who wants to donate, then they can send to our office to do that. And we also try to raise money to, even though the amount is not that big, but it helps us to assist our clients to cover costs for their visa fees. So we have this fundraising drive, although small amount of donation, but at least it helps us to get through things one at a time. And we also receive online donations, so it goes through our clients, and it also helps us to also give clients options, right? You can't just tell them to fight if you can't give them some
No.
tools.
Yeah.
One of that is to give them some resources like applying visa fees. So if there are listeners or anybody who is watching this, so they can donate, and then those are very practical assistance that they could do to our clients. So,
Yeah. I think, Danilo, you said it very well. One of the questions that we had was to better understand if there were other actions that HELP was doing in addition to providing legal support. And I think the community support and just giving them this feeling of being more supported is really helpful as such. This is really what we're trying to do at Uplifters. We do have another question, which is related to legal support, which is not necessarily related to the virus situation, but I will still screen it. So maybe you can help us giving advice to Odi. So Odi says that one thing that they may be facing sometimes is when when domestic worker become co-maker or grantor of a loan, and then they become harassed by shark loan collectors if the main person who filled the loan didn't pay it. And this is a situation that seems to be very difficult. So she's asking if there is any advice that you have on that matter, or if this is a situation that you encountered a lot.
Yeah, of course. Clients with debts from loan sharks and lending agencies are also very common, unfortunately. Also, because of the income loss and very small amount of money, and the demand also in Philippines, especially at the moment. So we assist clients on a case-to-case basis when it comes to debt cases as well. But for her question, I would strongly suggest that she contact us directly so we can provide her advice appropriately on specific details about the case. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I'm going to show the contact number of HELP here. Yeah, and their WhatsApp number. And you mentioned, Danilo, earlier that on Monday, normal office hours will resume. Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. On Monday, the Hong Kong government has announced that they will resume the government service usual office hours. So if workers has planned to file a claim at the Labor Relations Division or Labor Tribunal, then they can do so. That's a good news for them.
Yes.
For
And
us.
also for those who yes, that's very good news. And also for those who want to donate face mask and hand sanitizers, yes, please contact HELP for domestic workers.
Yeah, thank you, Janelle.
Yeah, and Camille, you showed a comment earlier.
Okay. I think that's not a question, right?
No,
Okay, thanks.
it is a big thank you.
Yeah.
We're going to share our experiences. Yeah. And thank you, by the way, for this platform, Uplifters, Camille and Janelle. Thank you for this.
You're very welcome, Danilo. I think one question that we had was if there was one right, maybe the most important one that domestic workers have, but that they may not be aware of. What do you think it would be?
Yeah, I would say even though there is an equal relationship between workers and their employers, we or they should not forget that they have this self-determination, I call it, or self-preservation, in which you can really decide to protect your own self. Like, you can say no. If your employer forces you to work excessively, you can say no, right? But the challenges actually are the support system, because it's in Hong Kong,
Mm.
it's very difficult just to say no, right? You have to provide some options for them, right? But
Mm.
regardless, we shouldn't forget that we can decide for our own self, because I've seen this pattern. I'm not a psychologist, but I have observed this among my clients. There are employers who really try to weaken the resolve of the workers, make them feel inferior,
Mm.
verbally abuse them, verbally humiliate them, make them feel stupid. So those are situations in which a worker really feels their their resolve weaken. So I would say we or they should not lose that. They have that. Many of the domestic workers in Hong Kong are highly professional workers in Philippines. They're
Mm. Yeah.
they're university graduates. So it's easier said than done, but I would say we shouldn't lose that. And uh, knowing how to protect ourselves is also knowing how and what our rights are, like understanding our rights and accessing information to NGOs, also other NGOs who might also be able to help them, like to really strengthen the resolve, like they empower themselves, in many
Mm.
ways.
Yeah. Especially now with the COVID-19 situation, this is a very timely message for everyone.
Thank you.
For your rights and self-preservation. So, do you have any more advice to domestic workers? Mm.
And those who are now watching and listening
Mm.
us, feel free to send your comments, and I'm sure Danilo will be happy to try his best to answer.
Mm.
So, yeah, feel free to share if you have any questions, including if this is not directly related to the current situation, that you know what Help for Domestic Workers is doing. Feel free to ask.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you. So I think what advice I will take the words that you both, Janelle and Camille, had mentioned earlier, that this is a community. It's easier to address our issues, like individual issues, if we also connect ourselves to the community.
Mm.
Like if workers, if they feel that they need help, they should start asking which organizations or communities in which they're involved in could they could approach to get some help. And uh, and getting involved in the community, that's also one thing. It's very isolating in Hong Kong, especially if you're a new worker here. It's if
Mm.
you're a new worker, then you're very vulnerable, and then if the employer notices that you are a newcomer in Hong Kong, then you are more exposed to abuse and
Mm.
exploitation. So really get involved in your community, do what you can, and of course it doesn't mean that uh, you have to do it, you only have one Sundays or one rest days a week, right? But in many ways you can please get involved in your community. And well, if you're also interested, you can get in touch with us. We are trying to develop programs for our clients also at Help,
Mm.
then they can get involved also with us, and perhaps we can suggest also on how uh, they could engage in community outreach as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really important for yeah, for them, for all of us to feel a sense of community. Yeah, because these are really confusing times, and I understand that in the Philippines there is still the uh, enhanced community quarantine. So this also has challenges
Mm.
to domestic workers.
Yeah.
So yeah, to our viewers, please send your questions, and we will, even after we end this live, we will try to answer them, or Danilo will answer them.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Uh,
Just send those questions to us. You have our
We
number.
have another thank you from Odi, who is just clarifying that she's not the one in the situation, but that she will give help contacts to her friend who is.
Okay, we're happy. I look forward to her.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
yeah. So um, well, I'm sure you had a long day, Danilo, at work.
That's
So
fine.
yeah, but um, uh, yeah, I'm sure we're going to receive more questions. So thank you again for your help. Thank you for all the work that you're doing.
You're welcome.
And before we end our broadcast, let's do our evening ritual together. This is a simple ritual that we're doing in our free online course, Dare to Dream, where we share the three things that made us happy today, or that we feel grateful for today. Can you please share with us the three things that made you happy for for today?
Well, every day when we wake up, life, that makes us happy. Life in all sense, life in our personal being, in our family, in our work, in our community. If we see clients who are really strongly encouraged to assert their rights, then that's life, right? So
Mhm.
that because we are scared of coronavirus because that's potential death. So we are happy to have life every day, right? And I'm also happy for this opportunity to be able to reach out to your members and to your community. So the opportunity by giving this platform, the knowledge that we have or the experiences that we have is being shared by those who might be in need of those information, right? Who might have questions. So and that's good. So what we know and my colleagues know should be shared to the community. We should look forward to the time in which I'm no longer needed, or yeah, that
Yeah.
I say that. So those kind of information, if those are shared, then that's good because there's a uh, multiple effect. If it's multiplied, then that's better, right? Everybody knows what to do, and it's easier for them to navigate. So, and this kind of opportunity is very good. Yeah, and also finally to all those who have patience in listening and watching in this program, that also makes me happy because we are almost broadcasting an hour, and some of us are still online and did not shut down. Then that makes me so that's
Yeah.
also thank you, Camille and Jenny.
Yeah. Thank you to our viewers for staying with us.
Yeah,
Can I just show in related to what you said earlier? This comment from Sina Marley. She says that self empowerment is very essential because it's easy to say no to abuses, but one must know when to deliver to say to her employer.
yeah, I think we made that point as well, and that's very good. It gets the message across.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another comment I'm happy to share, which is a very, very good transition to the end of that broadcast tonight, is Sinama, who is telling us that mental health is also very critical this time due to the chaotic situation. So yes, definitely the situation causes stress, anxiety, fear. It can feel overwhelming sometimes. Um, there are some strategies or mechanisms that can help feel a bit better. And we're happy to say that next week's special episode will be focusing on mental health and well-being during the pandemic. So we hope that you will be there, Sinamar, and all of you, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very timely as well. Topic.
Yes. So Camille, it's your turn now to to share with us the three things that made you
My
happy today.
my three little joys.
Yeah, your three little joys.
I think my day actually started very well because I am very lucky to be living nearby a beach. So I woke up very early in the morning to see the sunrise, and it gave me a lot of energy. So I was very grateful for that specific moment.
Mhm.
Another thing that I'm grateful for is I was very happy today to see and work with my colleagues because last week I had to work from home quite a lot, more than what I usually do, and it felt very good to connect and to have these social interactions with my colleagues. And the third one is definitely to be having the opportunity to be in that broadcast because the work I'm doing at Uplifters is a bit backstage. So I don't have so often the chance to be with you and to interact with you, to meet with you, Danilo, for sure, but also to directly provide this support to our community. So I was very happy to have a chance to read the comments and share the comments, and I really hope that the broadcast was useful.
Mhm. Yeah.
Thank
Thank you, Camilo and Camille. For me, my three little joys today are first, I'm happy that you accepted our invitation for this episode, Danilo.
Welcome.
It's yeah, it's great to speak with you, and I am so thankful for our community, and I'm also happy that Camille, you've joined us today. and and third is well, just a simple joy of eating Filipino food for dinner. Yeah.
Good.
Mhm. Can we? Yeah.
I'm just going to post that comment of Dahlia, who is one of our students, and she's saying that she is encouraging all the fellows domestic workers to join the course. Just to remind everyone that the online course that we offer, they are free. They're online, so it's quite flexible, and they're not focusing only on money management, but there is a lot about uplifting lives and feeling more confident. For example, to be able to say no. And making sure that actually there is a way to grow personally during this migration time as well.
Mhm.
And we have more comment about the community, really saying that it is a great tool as Filipinos because you guys are family oriented quite a lot. So being able to rely on a community feels good.
Mhm.
We also have community members being real artists writing poems, for instance, very nice ones.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, we all hope that is going to be better. We have good indicators, but I think it is very important to remain cautious and keep doing everything that we've been doing for the past weeks, the preventive measures, and yeah, we'll go through that for sure at some point.
Yeah, hopefully.
And we also have community members telling us where they're located. I am myself based on Lama, so you see, you have part of the audience being based here on Lama.
Yeah. Thanks for having us there.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess this is the end of our broadcast. Thank you everybody for joining us, and just please feel free to send in your questions and please type them in the comments, and we will answer them after we end this live. And thank you very much for joining us, Danilo. We have covered a lot of questions, and I'm sure, as you said, those issues are just challenges or just the tip of the iceberg. But thank you so much for your time, and your insight and advice are certainly helpful to all of us. And yeah, thank you also, Camille, and
You're welcome.
thank you, Danilo. So yeah, thank you everybody for joining
Thank
us.
you.
Yeah, good night.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Have a good evening. Bye bye.
Bye.
Have a long weekend, everyone. Enjoy.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Yeah. So